drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'd like to talk to you guys about what's going on in the stock market. Right now, the market's really strong. It doesn't usually get better than this. Right now, small cap stocks are absolutely killing it. There's a lot of money being made right there. The Russell 2000, which is an index that measures small cap stocks, is doing better than ever. And there are a lot of dynamics happening in the markets that I think everyone should be aware of and that everyone should pay attention to. Effectively, some of you have bought stocks like Oklo, and you've seen those stocks, that stock just kind of going crazy. I don't know if it's going to keep going up, but I'm very happy that most of you have looked at it and possibly even own it because it was a stock that we started talking about when it was $8 a share. Now that stock is up to $137 or something like that, something ridiculous that I never would have guessed. I never would have guessed in a million years that Oklo stock would rise. Actually, 135.23. That's the exact number. It went up 23% just on Friday alone. So anyway, with that being said, I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about a few notes I made in terms of things that you may want to look out for this week, things you may want to invest in. And of course, if you want to talk to me directly about some of this and ask me questions in class, feel free to go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. Okay, so first things first, the biggest thing happening now is there is a tug of war going on between the opposing effects in the Fed mandate. One is unemployment. Their goal is to keep unemployment low, and the other goal is to make sure that the that inflation is also relatively low. Their target rate is about 2%, and they're not at 2%. I think they're about 2.7% at on the PCE, which is the producer PCE produce. Oh my gosh, PCE. What is this thing? Sorry, the personal consumption expenditures. Why am I saying producer? PPI, producer price index. I should know these things, but forgive me, God ain't through with me yet. Anyway, so the PCE, personal consumption expenditures index, is still not where it needs to be, and that's a problem. That's a big issue in terms of the Fed not feeling comfortable with where inflation is right now. So they're watching it really closely. And so I say all this to say that if you want to sort of go through this profit alert, I encourage you to also consider this to be a general alert in the sense that if the PCE number, if inflation or any of the measures that they use, CPI, PPI, stuff like that, if any of these measures go up just a little bit, then what can happen is all expectations can shift. Everything can just sort of go kaboom in the market in terms of all the things that are driving all the money that you guys have been making up till this point. In fact, I bet you that a lot of you own Oklo. I believe that you do because a lot of you take a look at the stocks that I bring up, not because I'm giving investing advice. I don't do that, but because I just tell you guys what I'm interested in and what I'm looking at. And we've been talking about that one for a while. Also, another one that's done really well recently is Intel. I remember telling you guys in class that I was going to buy Intel, and a lot of you took a look at it. And it was really, the math was really simple. The simple math was, okay, if Trump's buying a piece of Intel, I want to buy a piece because he ain't the only person that's supposed to get rich off of whatever the shenanigans they have going on in the White House. And let me just tell you, if you want to know my opinion about the way they're running things in the White House from an economic standpoint, I will agree with you 100% that it's very dangerous. The Trump administration is challenging the independence of the Fed. They are going out and taking stakes in different companies and as if they own them. They are participating in crypto and they've made billions of dollars. The family personally is making billions of dollars from crypto legislation that's being passed as they're pushing it through, which, in my view, if you want to call that corruption, it's up to you to decide that. But it's certainly non-traditional. It's certainly a concern. It's absolutely positively not the typical way of doing business when you're a sitting president. So this president is setting precedents. So either something crazy is going to happen after he gets out of office, someone will go and prosecute him for these things, or he's just going to set a new standard where you're just going to have the drug dealers running the police station. That's just what it's going to be. But that doesn't mean you still can't get your money. So after you finish complaining about what he's doing, I need you to start focusing on what your family's doing. Do you agree with me on that? Let me know if you agree that there's money to be made and that we can focus on getting you money, not giving you something else to complain about. That's not what I'm here for. All right. So with that being said, a few other things happening. I don't like the jobs numbers. I think that's also a concern. So the reason that they lowered interest rates is because there are pieces of evidence implying that the economy may be stiffening up, slowing down a little bit. And if that's the case, then lower interest rates will tend to inflate the economy and kind of push it forward. The challenge you have is that if you lower interest rates too much too fast, the way the Trump administration wants to, you risk having another problem, which is out of control inflation. And so, two things that the Trump administration is doing that I would consider to be sort of playing with fire is one, they are actually challenging, they're pushing the Fed to lower these interest rates and really sort of undermining the independence of the Fed, which is an important part of our economy. And then secondly, they're just sort of doing all these other things where they're going into American companies, taking ownership stakes, and clearly biasing the system in the favor of Trump and his friends. And these are things that they're dangerous if you don't understand what's going on. But I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I've known things about Donald Trump since the 1980s. I followed him for a long time, and I kind of have some idea how he operates. And so a lot of you have made a lot of money by basically following whatever he's doing, right? So let me show you guys something. In terms of stocks that we've sort of taken a look at that have done well, largely due to the Trump influence. And so here you can see with Oklo, my God, some of you have made $100,000 on this stock, and I'm super happy for you. I know for a fact some of you have made as much as $100,000 because a lot of you are investing aggressively, and I think that's great. This stock has gone up 1,527% this year. That's amazing. That's literally you literally could have bought this stock for $8 when we started talking about it. Now it's at 135. I would say to you that maybe the party's over, nobody knows, but the problem is I thought the party was over when this thing hit 50. When the stock went from $8 to 50, I said, "Wow, this is great. This is amazing. Oh my God, this is so unbelievable." Now this stock has become a better ROI than Nvidia, but this stock is not Nvidia. Oklo is not Nvidia. What's the difference between Oklo and Nvidia? Very big difference. One of these companies is making money, the other one is not. All right. Oklo, by being pre-revenue, is a super risky asset to own. So if any little thing changes, if inflation is higher than expected, if the Trump administration decides to change course, if I don't know, if any little thing happens with the CEO or one of their deals goes through, you could see the stock chop in half like overnight. So really, with the option students, I told you all what I use it for. I use it to make income. If you have thousands of shares of the stock, you can literally sell those options and make thousands of dollars a week. That's what I've been doing for a while. But then also holding a little bit back as a long-term investment is what protects you in the event that the stock decides to go to the moon, which is what saved me. I actually invested very conservatively. I started shaving it off when it went too high, but it just kept growing and growing and growing like a weed. So basically, the one thing that saved me was I said, well, Boyce, it may actually keep going up. And I was thinking, well, it can't go up. It can't go up any higher. It's at $50, $60 a share, but it kept going to 135. And what saved me was I had a few shares put off to the side so that if the stock did keep going, I would be able to participate in that. So I told my wife though, I said, God, I wish I had just bought it and just owned it, and then we would have made so much more money. But that's the nature of investing. You have to prepare for the upside and the downside. Now, another company that I mentioned that I brought up in class the other day that is connected directly to the Trump administration is Intel. And you can see Intel stock since the Trump administration got involved has also moved up a lot. It moved up 25% this week. I think it's going to keep going up. I believe that there's more to come. I believe that right now in the backdrop, I believe the Trump administration is working to find customers for Intel. And he likes to do things big. Trump is a guy that likes to take care of his friends and he likes to make bombastic, broad, loud announcements that sound like he's going to build a base on Mars or something. So I could see him coming out maybe, or somebody coming out in a few weeks and making a big announcement that Intel is going to have, $10 billion worth of chips being purchased by some company, right? So last week, the big news for Intel was the partnership with NVIDIA. NVIDIA injected $5 billion into the company. I believe that the next big announcement will be somebody coming along and being a big customer of Intel. I wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen. I could be wrong. I could be making a mistake, but that's what I'm actually investing in. So I did buy more shares of Intel this week. Now, what else is going on right now? You got some companies that have earnings coming out this week. I can't remember who's releasing earnings this week. I want to say Costco. Um, but there's some other companies too. And the thing is, if any of these earnings announcements are off base a little bit, right? Like if you see that a couple of big companies have earnings numbers that are a little bit slow, that's gonna actually probably hit the market pretty hard. But the weird thing about it is that it could actually cause the market to go up because what happens is that when the Fed sees that the economy is having trouble, they tend to intervene. And so if they believe that the economic problems are going to lead to a Fed intervention, then that can shift everything and turn everything around. And another stock that I looked at, I really like this company a lot. Is there's a has anybody ever heard of Luckin Coffee? Luckin Coffee is they actually make coffee in China, right? And they are basically trying to pass up Starbucks in the United States. They've already done it in China, and they make super cheap coffee, and it's supposedly pretty good. And they're really growing very rapidly. They had some problems though because sometimes Chinese companies they just be lying. Like they just really they have a very different standard of like truth and stuff. It's real weird. I don't know what's going like for example, when I taught in China in 2005, I remember I would go in the street and I would find movies being sold that were still in the theater back at home. Or you would find all kinds of counterfeit Nikes and Rolexes and everything else. And like so if you have a trademark, they don't really look at trademarks the way we do. Like KFC was one of the most popular restaurants I saw in China. Like you were a big baller if you went to KFC, or if you took a girl to Pizza Hut, she might want to marry you. I'm not kidding. I took my student that lived in Shanghai. I took her to Pizza Hut, and it was a really super nice restaurant. And I said in America, if I took a girl to Pizza Hut on a date, she would never want to date me again. And she goes, Dr. Watkins, if you take girl to Pizza Hut, you will get the girl. And she said that, like so basically in China, Pizza Hut's like this fancy restaurant. Long story short, when I was there, I remember seeing all kinds of like fake KFCs everywhere, and people copying Pizza Hut in a very blatant way. And Larry Miller, who ran the Air Jordan brand, he's the guy that took Michael Jordan's shoe and took it from a $200 million company to 3 billion. Larry's a genius guy, and he's a good friend of mine. I love this guy. One thing he mentioned to me, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, is that they had to file a lot of lawsuits in China due to copyright infringement. So in China, they kind of have this funny view of truth and intellectual property. And so anyway, long story short, Luckin Coffee kind of got caught in a situation where they were kind of cooking the books a little bit, and they got delisted in the U.S. But that you actually can buy their stock over the counter. The ticker symbol is LKNCY, LKNCY. And I bought some shares. I'm not telling you to do it because I don't give investing advice, but I bought some shares of Luckin because I just feel like that company has a lot of it's undervalued. That's what I believe. I'm not saying that it does or does not, or it is or is not. I'm saying that's what I believe and that's what I'm going to do. So not investing advice, but just letting you guys know about it. And recently their earnings reports were pretty strong. They made a lot of money in the first quarter of 2025, and so their year-on-year revenue is growing tremendously. They have very rapid store expansion and market penetration. So they've been adding thousands of stores since 2020, much faster than Starbucks or any other company. They also have a massive footprint in China, and they're just going to different countries and they're just in heavy growth mode. And so they kind of have this low cost app based model of ordering the coffee and what they call a ghost kitchen, which is delivery focused sort of setup to help reduce the cost. So they got lower costs and they're selling coffee like crazy at a lower cost. And so they're a little bit more technologically efficient than Starbucks. And they swear up and down that their new leadership is not going to screw things up. Now, if you want to know the risk, remember every stock has a bear case, has something that could go wrong. You should always look for that too. One, they have what you call a lot of audit and regulatory risk, right? So since they got busted the first time for cooking the books, that previous fraud is pretty heavy over the company. So if you believe that they are like a reformed criminal that's actually doing right now, then this could be a great investment because they could be considered undervalued. But if you believe that they just gonna go back to the same old shenanigans like your cousin Pookie that got out of jail and swore that he found Jesus, but he's robbing the grandma, then that's a different story. I had a cousin like that actually. I love him. I hate saying this, but he's not here anymore. He died young, but he had this drug addiction, and I saw him at the family reunion, and he had just got out of jail for like robbing, like doing something over some coke or something. And I remember I asked him, I said, "So what did you do for rehab?" And because he kept talking about how he was reformed and he was never going back, and he said you know what his rehab was? His rehab was Jesus. He literally said Jesus was going to get him off of drugs, and I said, I didn't know Jesus ran a rehab clinic. I didn't know Jesus could get people. Okay, all right. I didn't say nothing, but in my mind, I got in the car that day with my mother and I said, I have a fear that he's going to go backward. I really believe he's going to relapse. And he did. I think couple months later, he ended up getting locked up again. And then he ended up, the overdose got him. So just avoid drugs, man. Drugs will ruin your wealth, but they'll take more than your wealth. Drugs will take your soul, take your family, everything. So let's just have that conversation in our community because before we talk about wealth, we got to talk about what drugs did to black wealth. Do we agree on that? Do y'all, is it okay? Sometimes I go outside those wealth lines. People don't maybe don't get it, but I really just want you to understand you can't talk about your economics without talking about your culture. And the fact is that you know what the drugs did to our families and did to us and did to our wealth. But and so we got to confront that. And once you confront those other things, it's easier to go and focus and go get your money. Okay. But I'm gonna show you how to get the money too. But you got to be there with me. All right. Got it? Makes sense? Give me a yes if you agree. All right. So a couple more things. This company has what you call margin pressure because they sell everything so cheap. Their margins are not that big. And when you're expanding, there's a massive investment in terms of the costs and leases and stuff like that. And that could be a big deal. There's also competition. You know, Starbucks is out there, and they're not going to let somebody come in and take over their block that fast. And also, consumers may just shift in terms of their trends. I don't think that's a big risk, honestly. And so, really, I'm going to say Luckin. I like Luckin Coffee. That's what I'm going to say. I like that stock. The ticker symbol. What was the ticker symbol? I gave it to you earlier. LKNCY. Somebody type LKNCY in the chat for anybody that wants to take a look at it. Not telling you what to do, just telling you what I'm doing. All right. So with that being said, what are some other things to kind of process? Um, First off, let me just say this. This week, Dr. Alicia is coming to our Stock Market Investors Club, and she's going to do a financial healing training on how to identify your financial trauma, how to address it and confront it, and how to fix it. And the reason you want to fix your financial trauma is so that you don't invest as a chicken. You don't jump in scared. You don't sit back and watch. You make your move, you make your move, you make your move. You know that it's not going to be perfect. You know things are going to go wrong. You know that sometimes you're going to make money, sometimes you're going to lose money, but to win the game, you got to get in the game. And you guys know from talking to me that the stock market is the number one wealth builder in the country. So if you want to join us this week in stock market investing class, we're going to meet Tuesday at noon for her training. She'll answer questions and talk to all of you about this. Just go to drboycestockmarket.com, drboycestockmarket.com, and you can find things that way. Also, you can get information from us if you text the word stock to the phone number 87948. So if you haven't done it yet, text stock to 87948. I'll send you some stuff. The US and China are having some issues. So if you're an owner of NVIDIA, be really careful because China's kind of kicking Nvidia out. And the fact that they're doing that is a little bit burdensome because that does affect Nvidia's massive, massive earnings power and their market domination. Nvidia is such a beautiful stock that it's almost what they call priced to perfection, which means that if any little thing goes wrong, Nvidia is going to drop like a brick. And so you may want to, do some protections, maybe get some puts or sell off some shares or whatever. I just realized today, or not today, this week, that I have too much Nvidia in my portfolio. Nvidia was one of those stocks I bought it when it was like $8 or $9 a share, and I bought a decent number of shares, several hundred shares, and then that investment that was like $5,000 or something turned into $110,000. And so honestly, I probably need to sell off some of my Nvidia anyway. But just keep that in mind. So as U.S. trade tensions kind of increase and the Americans go back and forth with the Chinese, this could get ugly because what happens in these trade wars is you get this tick for tack. So you have the Chinese that say we don't want Nvidia chips here anyway. Well, you know that Trump's going to respond to the Chinese, and you know that that's just going to make things worse. So overall, I don't know where this thing is going between the U.S. and China, but one of the things that many experts are saying is that you really want to be thoughtful and careful about how you invest in China. That may not be the safest place to put your money. So the big thing to kind of know for sure is that there is an expectation that the Federal Reserve is going to lower interest rates again in October. I think in October and November or October and December or something like that. If anything changes, like if the inflation numbers come out bad, the Federal Reserve may change their mind. That could cause a collapse in stock prices. Part of the reason that the Russell 2000, the small cap and small stock index, went up so much is because when the Fed cut interest rates, that basically is a big boost to those smaller companies that are leaning on bank loans and stuff like that in order to survive. So the reverse would be true in the other direction. If the Fed decides not to lower interest rates, then a lot of those stocks would be instantaneously cooked. However, if you're a long-term investor, which everybody really should be, you can buy and hold, or you can, stick with your original thesis, keep buying, and make a lot of money that way. There's also a really interesting conversation happening right now in crypto. What they're trying to do is really fascinating. They want to tokenize like every asset out here, right? And what tokenization does is a little bit like what you also would call securitization. You're basically taking this asset and you're chopping it into pieces and letting people buy tokens that represent ownership in the underlying asset. Tokenization is a little more efficient than having securities because the stock market is only open from 9:30 to 4 p.m. I'm all for tokenization and crypto involvement because crypto markets you can trade 24 hours a day. You have constant liquidity. Also, don't forget that the reason I tell you guys that the most important thing you can have financially is a capital base. A capital base matters more than a college degree. A capital base matters more than a good job. A capital base matters more than good credit. Because if you have a capital base, you don't need a college degree. If you have a capital base, you don't need a good job. Your money can work for you. If you have a capital base, you don't need good credit because you can borrow against the assets that you own. So one of the things that tokenization will do is, and this is the argument that was made, and I kind of agree with this, is that it will allow you to like use your tokens as collateral if you want to go get a bank loan or whatever. And the reason I believe this is really going to happen, and it's going to happen in rapid fashion, is because the Trump family themselves have already made multiple billions of dollars by basically just supporting all kinds of massive crypto projects. And so really, as I'm even processing this, I want to jump into a lot of the stuff that they're getting involved with because it sounds like they just got their hand all up in the cookie jar. I mean, Larry Ellison, one of Trump's buddies, just made $100 billion in a day. This crypto thing has made the family multiple billions of dollars. And I listened to his son Eric talk, and one of the things it sounds like they're doing is they're just trying to open the door for crypto to be fully integrated into the banking system. And so everybody's kind of on this gold rush toward Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're all making insane amounts of money. They're all jumping in, and I just really encourage you to jump in too. So I would say, I'd start with the simple stuff, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but then there are other companies that are connected to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then there are other companies that are connected to the Trump administration. I'm beginning to get a sense that the fix is in over there. So, for example, Palantir might be a stock worth looking at because they're so integrated with the government that I damn near think that they represent the CIA, NSA, and all kinds of insidious stuff that's going on, in terms of the federal government. So I'm going to buy some more shares of Palantir. I just want to kind of be down with whatever they're doing over there to make money. But again, it doesn't go without saying that a lot of what you're seeing, economically speaking, or just not even economically speaking, but just in terms of how the government's being run, it could be considered dangerous. They are undermining lots of sacred institutions. They're sort of breaking rules in a lot of ways. And you can see that as a good thing, or you can see it as a bad thing. It's up to you. Palantir is spelled Palantir. I think the ticker symbol is PTLR or something like that. But I'm gonna buy some shares of Palantir. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I could easily be wrong about this because all the research says you cannot predict the direction of an individual stock. So never believe anybody when they tell you. They can tell you for sure if a stock is going up and down. They're just speaking with confidence, but not with knowledge. Those are two different things. All right. So anyway, with that being said, have I been to China lately? No, I have not been to China lately. I'm gonna go. Is the dollar falling like a rock? I mean, it might be down for sure, but it's not gonna collapse anytime soon. I know about BRICS and everything else that's out there. Those are things that matter for sure, but that's not going to collapse the dollar. The dollar is pretty solid. However, long term, I think if Trump keeps on sort of undermining things like Fed independence and trying to manipulate interest rates and all that, then what can happen is that the credibility of our officials and our institutions can be undermined, and that could be a significant problem. But we'll see how that goes. Until then, I want you to make money, so let's go get it. Let's go make it happen. All right. So with that being said, does Palantir make Wait, they build private prisons? Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know they built. Well, if they build private prisons, and I can't invest in that. Thank you for telling me. I didn't know that. I thought they just did government contracts. I didn't know they. But if they do government contracts, they build private prisons too, because private prisons are not government owned. So I'll look into it. I'll look into it and I'll see it. If it's into private prisons, I'm not messing with that. I don't do that. All right. So anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna get on out of here. If you want to learn how to make money selling stock options, that's something that we do once every couple of weeks. We're gonna meet on Monday night. So if you go to drboyceprime.com, you can join us. That's Dr. Boyce Prime. Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. So go to drboyceprime.com and you can join us for class on Monday. And we actually have a 10-step process where you can go from zero to cash flow and selling stock options. I think personally from a cash flow and liquidity standpoint, it's better than owning real estate. It's better than starting a business. It's literally something that you can do that doesn't require any labor. It just requires you to kind of know how to sort of handle the portfolio, and also the cash flow is better than real estate. Take it from a guy who does both. I like selling stock options much more than real estate. So anyway, it's up to you to decide how to approach that. That's drboyceprime.com. So anyway, have a good day, everybody, and God bless you. It was great to see you, and I will see you all very, very soon, and hope you guys have a great day.